Okay, so for my cipher presentation, I decided to do mine on the Spartan Scytale. So what is a Scytale? A Scytale was a stick or baton of varying length and diameter, commonly carried by the Spartan military. Again, is used as a messenger authentication stick, because at that point only the messenger should be the one to have the proper Scytale. A military name tag. Oftentimes members of the Spartan soldiers would have a belt with their name on it, right? So that was how that worked. And of course, is a cryptographic device. So a long strip of either leather or parchment, or really anything that you could write on and would last. Obviously in the military, leather was probably better than parchment because leather would last, getting splashed with, blood and rain and mud and whatever be. Was wrapped around the entire length of the Scytale, and messages were then written on left to right. When wrapped and read across, the message made sense. Of course, you have to add spaces. There wasn't any spaces, but the message would make sense. But then when you unwrap it, it was a strip with random letters, seemingly. And a lot of historians agree that it was the first example of transposition cipher known to history. Transposition, of course, meaning, you're moving and shuffling letters around. It worked, as I kind of said earlier. You take a strip of something to write on. You would wrap the strip around the Scytale. After it's wrapped, write it the same way you'd read it, left to right. Write your message, one letter per wrap, I suppose. While wrapped, it was clear to read. When unwrapped, it was difficult. And it seems pretty straightforward and seems pretty easy to crack and to know what, it doesn't seem very secure, right? However, the tricky part was that the sender of the message and the receiver had to have the exact same size of Scytale, or the letters would line up differently or not even at all. So if someone had, if the sender had a Scytale the size of like a baseball bat, the fat end, the receiver had to have the exact same diameter. Otherwise, the message would be completely wrong. So that is where that's where the security comes from, in the sense that you're not really going to have any idea of the diameter of the Scytale that your opponent is using or whatever. So how do you crack it? The most easy thing to do is either obtain the sender or receiver Scytale. That way you know for sure you have the right diameter from the get-go. And then, of course, obtain the strip and then wrap it around and see what the message would be. Another thing is, of course, after obtaining the strip, start wrapping it around different diameters of sticks and batons or whatever until the letters made sense and actually spelled something out. Another form of the security came from the fact that because the message was on a strip of leather or parchment, the length of it could easily be tampered with. And if the length is tampered with, then the whole message is jeopardized, I guess. There's another form of security, is that the strip of whatever you wrote the message on has to stay the same length as it was originally. I think that's all of it, right? So now I guess I'm going to demonstrate kind of a homemade one. Bear with me, it's not the coolest looking one. But I have this strip of paper and it has a bunch of random letters on it. I don't know, HWHO, HIWY, like I don't know. I'm gonna take my Scytale and then I would wrap it. I would start here and I would wrap it around once, all the way to the end, basically, until I ran out of parchment or whatever. So hi, how, why, right? So you wrap it around, and all of a sudden it makes sense and you can read whatever's written on it. But again, as soon as it's unwrapped and you're trying to read it just straight on, it's a bunch of random letters with seemingly no rhyme or reason. And in the past, like this is the triangle shape, so there's only 3 sides. In the past, Scytales would be like hexagonal or octagonal. More sides, meaning technically more letters in the the strips of parchment or leather or whatever would be a lot longer or a lot thinner or what have you. But anyways, yeah, that's the Spartan Scytale.